not just in terms of threats and so the multiplier effects of these dynamics, but we also look for opportunities for collaboration around natural resources, such as key issues as water. And we've really been fortunate to benefit from a long-term collaboration with a number of partners who are present here today, but also with USAID and USAID's Office of Conflict Management and Mitigation, with whom we've enjoyed a fruitful and dynamic collaboration for just over 3 years now. And that has been really good and exciting for us and for this set of issues and for the community of practice working on these issues. And on that note, I'd like to introduce you to Melissa Brown, who's the director of that office, so that Melissa can frame some of these issues for us and welcome us today. So, Melissa?
Great. Thank you, Roger Mark, for that introduction. I'd also like to thank the rest of the Wilson Center Environmental Change and Security Programs team. We have really enjoyed an excellent partnership with that team and have really been able to sustain with them technical leadership on the nexus between environment, conflict, and peace building. We're grateful to have longstanding collaborators and colleagues in that space and in our mutual efforts to harness and advance expertise and learning from partners like EcoPeace Middle East. USAID has also enjoyed a long-standing partnership with EcoPeace Middle East, including ongoing CMM funding to activities in support of the Good Water Neighbors program. Our current support seeks to foster economic cooperation through green economy initiatives. These are initiatives between neighboring communities that share environmental resources to help ensure community-wide cooperation over the management and use of these resources. The Good Water Neighbors Project has brought together Palestinian, Israeli, and Jordanian youth, adults, and municipal representatives from 28 communities to cooperate over transboundary water resources and jointly advance sustainable development in the region. USAID also highlighted these programs and these partnerships in our Water and Conflict Toolkit, which we launched here several months ago at the Wilson Center. We are not the only ones who have drawn out the lessons from these programs. An independent external evaluation of the project that I was just mentioning concluded that 88% of youth participating in EcoPeace Middle East cross-border activities said they now understand the necessity to work together to protect their shared water resources. The program has been recognized by many others, including Time and the Skoll Foundation. So it's without further ado that I want to hand off to the panel. And I'm very much looking forward to a fascinating discussion and, of course, learning about the Sister Cities International component to this. So thank you very much for joining us today. And again, we're very grateful for the partnership with many of the people that you see represented on this panel today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melissa. It's really critical and important for us to have the support and collaboration with partners like you and your colleagues at USAID. And I'm really glad to sort of hear your comments on green economy, transboundary collaboration, cooperation from a regional perspective, and what it means for sustainable development overall. These are really key, important themes that we will be looking at today. And in chatting recently again with Alice Hill, she said, you know, one of the things about what you do at the Wilson Center is that you bring together the most interesting minds and most thoughtful persons. And I think of that comment when I think of who's here today for the panel. In talking to Gideon about this session today, he said, you know, it's not every day that we have 3 mayors from the region together not in the region and not in the United States. So this is really quite unusual and quite a privilege. So we really extend a special welcome and are quite pleased to have you here. I think as Melissa was alluding to, you heard a little bit about EcoPeace Friends of the Earth Middle East's Good Water Neighbors project, what has been bringing these partners together. And most notably in the Lower Jordan Valley, they have recently partnered with Sister Cities International and citizen diplomacy initiatives to create these sister city partnerships, which we'll be talking about today. And I want to introduce you to Gidon Bromberg. Some of you may have heard him speak here previously. You may have heard him with his TED Talk, which is wonderful. But Gidon is a friend of the program and a very important player in looking at these issues. He's the co-founder of the EcoPeace Middle East program, is an attorney by profession, and has previously worked in public interest environmental law, and is a regular speaker, an analyst, and person who brings people together around water, peace, and security issues in a number of forums. So, Gidon, with that introduction, I'd like to hand it over to you to present some of the overview perspective on how this collaboration has come together.
Thank you very, very much, Roger Mark, and we're very, very grateful to the Woodrow Wilson Center for the opportunity again to allow us to convene. And I think that's the great treasure, one of the many treasures of the Wilson Center, is this convening potential and role that you play. Melissa, we're very, very grateful for the support of USAID and the Conflict Management and Mitigation Program. I don't know how many of you know, but the US government through USAID contributes $10 million every year to peace building from a people-to-people perspective between Israelis, Palestinians, and Jordanians. And I can tell you that there aren't many other governments around the world that are so committed every year. It's not a one-off program. It's a constant program that builds on the success of earlier programming. And very much EcoPeace, we've been known as EcoPeace Friends of the Earth Middle East for the last 15 years. We're going back to our original name, EcoPeace Middle East, and we'll be doing that over these coming months. And we truly have benefited from the support of USAID for the last 20 years. In fact, our very first grant to establish our organization came from USAID 20 years ago. And we hope that USAID is pleased with the results of their investments that have helped us do the very important work. And the organization is exceptional because it's the only organization that is Palestinian, Jordanian, and Israeli. A single board. Myself, Nada, and Munketh on the table run the organization together. And sadly, there is no parallel to it in any other field, environment or anything else. And therefore, the experience that we've had focusing on water as the means of bringing people together. As Roger Mark just said, as Melissa said, from the evidence on the ground, not because someone is doing someone else a favor, because favors generally don't last, and certainly not in conflict, because they have a sense that they're advancing their own interest. And when we talk about water, we talk about self-interest, because anywhere in the world, and certainly in the Middle East, no one survives without water. So working together on water speaks to the self-interest of each side. It's effective when we advance mutual interest and there's mutual gain. And that's what we're all about. We're all about identifying the mutual gain of cooperation over our shared water resources. And we do it in two ways. We first of all do research, and we undertake, we'll bring an Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian expert to understand what's happened to the Dead Sea. Why has the Jordan River, why did the Jordan River basically turn to a sewage canal? And then, more importantly, how do we get it right? How do we turn that situation around? And we come out with concrete recommendations for rehabilitation to impact and change policies. But we also know that to change policies, it's not enough to write reports. And this has been the real strength of the Good Water Neighbours project, because it's built on cooperation starting in 2001, starting in 11 communities, 5 Palestinian, 5 Israeli and 1 Jordanian, advancing to 28 communities by 2010, and today taking a whole watershed approach, so that it's not just pairs of communities anymore, but it is true watersheds, the whole watershed of the Jordan Valley, the whole watershed of cross-border streams, including from the West Bank through Israel and Gaza. We continue to have staff people on both the Gaza side of the border and on the Israeli side of the border. The program works at various levels in the community. We work with youth, we work with adult activists, and of course we work with the mayors, and we're so grateful to have some of the mayors here at the table. Here you see Yossi Vardi. You can see him on the podium, on the table here as well. Hasn't changed in 10 years, looking as young as ever. With the youth, we work through education. So we create youth water trustees, young people coming to learn about their water reality and their neighbours' water reality. And they see large differences when you turn on the tap in any community in Israel. Water will always flow. That's not the case in Palestine. And it's not always the case in Jordan either. And there's reasons for it. So it's important for youth to understand those reasons. And a lot of those reasons are conflict related. And we speak about that, learning about your water reality, your neighbour's water reality, and then most importantly, the interdependence of that water reality. Because interdependence speaks to self-interest and mutual gain. Lots of cross-border activities, but beyond the education, it's a lot of identifying of the problems. The sewerage, which is a very rampant problem, sadly, in so many of our communities, that doesn't stop at a border, that flows, no fence, no political boundary stops pollution flowing from one side to the other. So we identify concrete problems that need solving. Increased water supply. The fact that one community doesn't have water when they open the tap. That's a concern also, that should be a concern for the neighbouring community. Because a thirsty neighbour will never be a good neighbour. So it speaks to self-interest. It's not an issue of kindness. It's in your own interest to make sure that your neighbour also. And that helps change mindsets. Instead of seeing the other side as your enemy, you're seeing the other side as someone that has a relationship through nature. The pollution that comes from the other side impacts you. So there's strong reasons as to why you should get to know the other side and be involved in solving each other's transboundary issues. Through identifying concrete problems, we seek to engage the community. So, like all elected officials, they often will move forward only if there's a constituency within their own community that is supporting that effort, that is perhaps pushing that effort a little bit. So we try to do that by educating community members. We've developed Neighbours Path trails through all of our communities that looks at these issues. What's happening with my sewerage? Where is my water coming from? And how is my solid waste being disposed of? And of course, those trails cross the border. And what's the reality on the other side? We encourage, of course, municipal leadership. We've often found that some mayors, and the mayors on the table here, have jumped at the opportunity of meeting the other side. But in other cases, mayors are very reluctant because they might pay a political price. And therefore, we have to develop political will, develop political support that speaks to self-interest so that they can convince their own constituencies that they're doing the right thing, that they're acting in their community's interest by working with the other side. We have many examples of concrete success. So the Jordan River that sadly has become famous for being a sewage canal is slowly turning around, and the mayors themselves will speak to that. The sewage is coming out of the Jordan River on the Israeli side, on the Jordanian side, and on the Palestinian side. USAID built the sewage treatment plant on the Jordanian side of the valley. The government of Japan supported Jericho's building of a sewage treatment plant, and the municipality itself in Israel raised the funds, and you'll hear about it on the Israeli side. But more than that, fresh water. It's still in a pipe. It's not the way we would like to see a river flow, but this is the headwaters of the lower Jordan River today. But a year ago, no fresh water was flowing. And that change is very much due to a change in mindset, a change in understanding that allowing that river to continue to flow is not empowering my enemy, it's empowering my neighbor. And I want to empower my neighbor. And that's key. We have a model farm being developed between Israel and Jordan to exchange best practices on agricultural advance. A sewage treatment plant built on the Israeli side that's treating the sewage of the Palestinian side. And that's a memorandum of understanding signed between an Israeli and a Palestinian community. Literally solving a common interest, because the groundwater that was being polluted the groundwater of both sides. And no less important, the building of environmental education centers in Israel, in Palestine, in Jordan. This is the first environmental education center in Palestine. It had some 20,000 Palestinian kids for the very first time have the opportunity to learn about fun things to do with the environment, but also, of course, connected to our shared water resources. Beyond that, we found that, and this starts really relate to the sister city relationship, that once you build trust on one issue, of water in our case, there's no limitation as to where that trust can take you. So that trust has helped save these terraces in the West Bethlehem area of Batir. A wall was going to be built through them, and they haven't been built because there's a common understanding of their importance. Work with women's centers in so many of our communities, partnering as USAID is currently supporting us with the tourism and travel community. Small businesses of tour operators and tour guides who have an economic incentive to work together. So we want them to work together because they're the model. So going beyond that, and this is the last slide, what we've always known is that this is absolutely necessary. There can be no peace without the leaders signing a peace treaty. But what we also know, that in order to get there, it doesn't just happen. It requires support. And this type of signing ceremony between Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian mayors helps lead us there. The effort, and what we're so excited about in the sister city relationship with US cities, is it's bringing, again, American leadership to this table. And, you know, we'd like the mayor of New York or the mayor of Chicago or the mayor of LA, but we'll also compromise. But we do think that there is such an important role for US citizens to be directly involved through their cities in the people-to-people effort, because it's that bottom-up effort that creates the absolutely necessary constituencies in your communities and in our communities to get to that signing ceremony, to get to the peace that we all so desperately desire. So I need to cut there and bring it back to Roger Mark.
Thank you, Gideon. I think that was particularly useful and fascinating in terms of sharing with us just the establishment of this collaboration, what it meant for the operationalization of it, how you roll it up, and then the scaling up and expansion of it. I think you said a number of things that really resonated. You talk about water reality, conflict, and interdependence. A thirsty neighbor will not be a good neighbor. The other side has a relationship through nature. The trails cross borders. What's the reality on the other side? The mayors jump to their opportunities, but others are reluctant to do so because of the political costs. And we need to think about how we express this in terms of self-interest. Once you build trust on one issue, there's no limitation on where that trust can take you. And of course, we'd love the mayors from New York City, Chicago, and LA, but we'll also compromise to get to that piece that we're ultimately looking for. So very useful, very helpful. Thank you very much. We're very excited to build on this framework that Gideon has outlined for us to hear from the mayors. And we're going to hear from our first mayor, Mayor Ali El Delki, who has been serving as the mayor of the Munaz bin Jabal municipality since 2013. And this is a cluster of towns and villages at the heart of the Lower Jordan Valley. He's in his second term as mayor of the municipality. So, Mayor Delki?
You want to sit here?
Huh?
You want to
From
sit
here?
Has the
You can if you want.
You can sit there or you can come to the podium, wherever you're more comfortable.
Because I need to translate.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam alaikum.
How are you?
Yeah.
Fine. But I want to speak in Arabic. Excuse me. And Mr. Munkadh, he will
I'll do
translate.
translation. Of course, yeah.
بداية يعني أنا أول مرة بزور الولايات المتحدة.
Firstly, it's
فخر.
my first time that I visit the United States.
ومنقذ وقدعون بيقولوا لي يعني إلي يومين ماشي بالطيران وبيقولوا لي بدك تحكي بس 5 دقائق معقول؟
Myself and Gidon is telling him to speak only for 5 minutes after he traveled for 2 days.
شكرا على الحضور وشكرا للإخوان في سيستر سيتي.
We
على
thank you
الاستضافة
very much
الطيب.
for coming, and we thank the people from sister cities for inviting us,
والمنظمين للقاء الحالي
and the organizers of the event,
وإخواننا الداعمين اليو اس ايد.
and the USAID who always in support.
لهم معنا في وادي الأردن وفي بلدية معاذ بن جبل الكثير من البصمات الطيبة.
They have their prints in our community in Mu'adh bin Jabal in the Jordan Valley.
وبعد هذا وذاك لابد من شكر للشعب الأمريكي والحكومة الأمريكية والرئيس الأمريكي.
And after that, I would like to extend my gratitudes and thanks for the people of America and the government of America and the
على-
president of America
على الدعم القديم والحاضر والمستقبلي
for
للأردن
all
والحكومة
the support
الأردنية.
that's been there since many years back, in the present, and hopefully in the future, of course.
وعلى حسن الشراكة وتطابق الأفكار بين القيادات
And the
للبلدين.
beautiful partnership and the closeness in thinking also.
وخصوصا القضايا المهمة والمصيرية في منطقة الشرق
And
الأوسط.
especially the very important and hot issues in the Middle East.
بكفي سياسي أتوقع.
Yeah, that's enough for politics. على ال presentation يلا.
خليها معك أنت
Yeah.
وتنقل زي ما بدك. بخصوص وادي الأردن ومنطقة بلدية معاذ بن جبل اللي أنا رئيس لها.
About the Mu'adh bin Jabal municipality, which is in the Jordan Valley, which I'm the head of the municipality,
والمحاذية إلى نهر الأردن
which it's bordering with the Jordan River,
الذي تعمد فيه السيد المسيح.
the one that everybody knows that Jesus was baptized in the Jordan River,
المنطقة الأخفض نقطة في العالم
the lowest
البحر الميت.
point of earth where the Jordan River comes to an end in the Dead Sea.
عدد سكان منطقة بلدية معاذ بن جبل ما يقارب 50,000 نسمة.
The population of our municipality is about 50,000 people.
هذه المنطقة تعد من الأفقر ضمن مناطق المملكة الأردنية
It is
الهاشمية.
one of the poorest in the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan.
نسبة الفقر والبطالة تصل إلى حوالي 40% ما بين سكان المنطقة.
Unemployment is about 40% in the area.
هذه المنطقة زراعية من الدرجة الأولى.
It's an agricultural area, of course,
وفيها العديد من مصادر المياه.
and it does have a number of sources for water.
سوري بعض المعلومات اللي بنحكيها مش موجودة كمان على السلايد يعني إضافة.
Yeah, some of the information I'm just saying, it's not in the presentation, yes.
فهي منطقة مهمة من الناحية الاقتصادية والسياحية.
It's very important area from a economical point of view and also touristic point of view.
إمكانيات البلدية بشكل عام إمكانيات محدودة
The capabilities of the municipality is very limited,
للتعامل مع القضايا المهمة والمشاكل المهمة.
very limited in respect of dealing with very important issues,
التلوث والصرف الصحي،
the sanitation and pollution.
وهي مشاكل تهدد بالخطر.
These are very dangerous problems that we are facing.
والخوف من أن تختلط هذه المياه بالمياه الجوفية.
And always the fear of mixing these polluting water with the groundwater.
عملنا بشراكة طيبة مع جمعية أصدقاء الأرض.
We did a very good partnership with EcoPeace
للقيام ببعض الإجراءات التي قد توقف النزيف.
to do some activities which it's not enough, of course, to stop this dangerous situation.
والموضوع يكاد يخرج عن السيطرة.
We are afraid that it's a very important issue and it's almost out of control.
فلذلك بحاجة إلى أن نعجل دراسة الوضع.
For that reason, we really need to work in a hurry with the organization.
بخصوص ما يتعلق بالتلوث والمياه
in relation to pollution
العادمة.
and the wastewater.
هذا الوضع إذا ما أخذنا بعين الاعتبار ارتفاع الكبير في درجات الحرارة في المنطقة وما يؤدي إلى الكثير من الأمراض.
We need to keep in mind that the area is very hot, especially in the summertime, and how having water like that is leading to creating many diseases.
فلذلك لابد من بذل المزيد من الجهود.
For that we really need to work even harder.
والمزيد من المساعدة.
And need much more support.
وكلنا أمل.
We are all hope.
في USAID أولاً.
In the USAID first.
لأنهم ساعدونا في إنشاء محطة للمعالجة.
Because they understand the problem and they already helped in building the first water treatment plant in the region.
ولكن بقي علينا إتمام المشروع بشبكة الصرف الصحي.
But we still need to complete the project by building the sanitation network in the community.
هناك حقيقة جهود طيبة من الجمعية الأصدقاء الأرض في هذا المجال.
There is good efforts from EcoPeace to try to create enough funds to do that.
بحاجة إلى أن ننتهي من هذه المشكلة وبأسرع وقت.
So we can get over with this problem once and for all.
أما ما يخص نهر الأردن.
About Jordan River.
مشكلة مشتركة.
It's a common or bilateral or trilateral problem.
بحاجة إلى جهد مشترك.
It needs all of us.
وهذا الجهد المشترك لن يكون كافيا إلا بدعم بقرار سياسي من
And
الجميع الأطراف.
it needs a lot of efforts, and that efforts needs the political will and the political support.
عملية السلام ليست بالتوقيع فقط على الأوراق،
The peace treaty, it's not all about signing papers only,
ولكن بحاجة إلى أن ترى الشعوب المعنية بعملية السلام
but people on the ground needs to see results of that
على
peace
الأرض،
on the
نتائج.
ground,
نتائج السلام التي وقعت اتفاقيتها على الورق.
and the results of these treaties that have been signed on papers.
وبتصوري كل هذه الأمور مرتبطة بحل القضية الفلسطينية.
And all these, in our opinion, and it's a general opinion in the area, is really connected to the Palestinian cause, of course.
بإقامة الدولة الفلسطينية
To create or start the Palestinian state,
وحفظ الأمن والسلام للشعب الإسرائيلي بالمقابل.
and also secure the security and prosperity of the Israeli people in Israel.
نأمل إن شاء الله
We hope
بشراكة طيبة وفاعلة
that a good partnership will come to the surface,
وبمد مزيد من جسور الثقة بين الجميع في المنطقة،
and to build more bridges of trust between the nations in the area.
وقد أسعدني ما سمعت من الإخوان في سيستر سيتي عن بعض الأفكار والتوجهات في هذا
I was
المجال.
very pleased of what I heard from the people in sister cities in that direction.
لكن بحاجة إلى جهد وبحاجة إلى صبر.
A lot of patience is needed to work in the Middle East, of course,
حتى نصل إلى الهدف المنشود.
to reach our objectives.
شكرا لكم على حسن استماعكم.
Thank you very much for your good listening.
شكرا للحضور جميعا.
Thank you very much, Mayor El-Darki. It's good to have you here in the United States. Let's go on to our second mayor. Mayor Yossi Vardi has been the head of the Israeli-Jordan Valley Regional Council since 2002, and I'll hand it over to you now for your comments.
You need my translation, you see?
Excuse me?
You need my translation or Gidon?
Gidon.
Okay.
My friend talk in Arab, so I will talk in Hebrew. Because my poor English, it will be better for you, not for me. First, thank you very much for this very interesting meeting. I want to put some points before we see some pictures. גדעון, please. נהר הירדן עבורנו הוא מפגש של אינטרסים.
We see the Jordan River as an intersection of interests.
ולכן נוצר שיתוף פעולה ישראלי ירדני-פלסטיני.
And therefore the need for cooperation, Israeli, Jordanian and Palestinian.
שיתוף פעולה שמשרת את שלושת העמים שיושבים לאורך הירדן.
Cooperation that must advance the needs of the three peoples that live along the river.
נהר הירדן שמחבר את Sea of Galilee, את הכנרת, לים המלח.
The Jordan River that connects the Sea of Galilee to the Dead Sea
הינו עורק חיים משותף.
is a life vein common to all three.
אנחנו הירדנים, פלסטינאים והישראלים שיושבים לאורך הירדן,
We, the Israelis, Palestinians and Jordanians that live along the river,
מאמינים בשיתוף הפעולה המקומי בינינו,
believe in the cooperation at the local level amongst us
שיקרין על הממשלות שלנו,
that must reflect light on our national governments.
בימים אלו אנו מבצעים עבודות לשיקום הירדן,
And for my council, in these very days, we are undertaking infrastructure activities along the river
במטרה להחזיר לירדן את הטבע, החי והצומח לרווחת כל התושבים שלאורכו.
in order to bring back the nature of the river for the benefit of all three peoples along its path.
אנחנו מאמינים ששינוי המציאות של הירדן
We believe that the change of the reality along the river
יכול להוות נקודת מוצא לשיתוף פעולה רחב יותר.
is a concrete means of developing cooperation beyond the river.
בשיחה שקיימנו כאן לפני מפגש זה
In a meeting that we held together
עם סטיב ואדם מהארגון של ערים תאומות,
together with Sister Cities and CDI,
דיברנו על כך שנהר הירדן
we spoke about the River Jordan,
מחפש, רוצה וזקוק לערים תאומות.
is wanting and is in need for sister city relationships.
אני כראש מועצה אזורית עמק הירדן,
I, as the mayor of the Jordan River Valley Council,
החלטתי לקחת את הנושא של שיקום הירדן כפרויקט ראשון במעלה,
took upon myself to take the rehabilitation of the river as a priority for my council
בשטח שבו עליו אני אחראי,
in the area that I'm responsible for,
13 הקילומטר הראשונים,
the first 13 kilometers of the river,
מיציאת הירדן מהכינרת
from its exit from the Sea of Galilee
עד מקום מפגש הנהרות הירמוך והירדן.
to the confluence of the Jordan and Yarmouk rivers.
בואו נראה כמה תמונות.
So some of the photos of what
Some
we're doing.
details about our project, you can see. We hope to... אנחנו נתמכים על ידי ממשלת ישראל בתקציב,
We have funding from the government of Israel,
אבל התקציב שהממשלה מעמידה לא יוכל לספק את הפרויקט.
but it's insufficient funds to reach all of the objectives that we want to gain.
ולכן אנחנו מחפשים שותפים נוספים שרואים בחשיבות את שיקום הירדן.
And hence we're looking for more partnerships, both in the region and beyond.
אוקיי. In the first picture you can see a new, Gidon, help me please.
Sewage
quickly.
treatment plant.
Yes. Okay. He work so we can take out all the garbage from the river and to bring a good water from the Sea of Galilee to the river. This is the plan. Okay. You can see that we work many activities along this part of the Jordan. We change all the area for the Jordan. Okay. No. So you can see some pictures. It's only the beginning of the works. It will take maybe 2 years, maybe 3. It depends the budget.
So one of the photos that I'm really excited about is these ones, because these are young willow trees. An American Navy officer by the name of Lynch, Admiral Lynch, was the first Westerner to go down the River Jordan from the Sea of Galilee to the Dead Sea, 1848 or something. He records the vegetation along the river, and he speaks of the willow trees along the banks of the river. Well, when we did our study just a decade ago, the willow tree is extinct. It disappeared because it couldn't survive in the dirty water. And with the willow trees being planted along the banks of the river, because the fresh water is flowing again, it speaks to what remarkable change that we can bring back to this river.
כך שאתם יכולים לראות שאנחנו לא רק מדברים, אלא גם עושים. תודה רבה.
And therefore you can see that we don't just talk, we're trying to change the reality on the ground. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Vardi. Let's now go on to our next mayor, Nadir Al-Katek, who's served as the Palestinian director of EcoPeace Middle East since 2001.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Well, thanks for the organizers, thanks for all of you, thanks for everybody who tries, to make change in the Middle East. Of course, a positive change. And just to add also, for USAID, because for the PA, USAID is the largest supporter, an average of $400 million goes to the PA every year. And also the sewage of Jericho, also USAID just awarded a contract for the house connections, and I know the contractor. And also we have other things. We've been working with USAID on another program, the MERC, the Middle East Regional Cooperation Program. We are providing an umbrella for the universities because the universities are not allowed to work. But to start also with the Palestinian mayor, I'm sure if he was here, I will be asked to translate for him. So to give the whole presentation. And unfortunately, he was traveling with me yesterday, and at 5 o'clock in the morning at Amman airport, he had to go back because his passport has only 5 months left, and he has to renew his passport. And now he's flying, and it will be it is his first visit. He will never forget it, because this is the first time, to go through such experience, but he will be with us. And I'm delighted to give a briefing about his presentation. I'm sure if he was here, he will do it in a better way. Okay, now we are talking here about the Jordan Valley, although he comes from the middle of the Jordan Valley, but the situation is the same for the Palestinian communities in the Jordan Valley, and we share lots of the challenges with the neighboring countries, Israel and Jordan. And the Jordan Valley is the eastern strip of the West Bank, and goes from the Sea of Galilee to the north, near Basic Stream. And from the Jordan River in the east, what is that, 15 kilometers westward. I know it's about 100 kilometers, in the eastern border of the West Bank. This area, also the Jordan Valley, represents about 1/3 of the West Bank area. And it has a potential for the future Palestinian state. Currently, we have about 60,000 or 58,000 Palestinians living in the Jordan Valley, and we have about 9,000 settlers living in the valley. The valley also, faces lots of challenges in terms of, I don't know if you are familiar with areas A, B, and C, but 94% of the Jordan Valley is Area C, which means the Palestinian Authority has no control whatsoever. Security and civil affairs is under Israeli control, which means you cannot do any development without prior Israeli approval. Sanitation is one of the challenges. Jericho is the only city. Jericho is the oldest town on earth and just got its sanitary sewage recently. It's, last year Jericho celebrated the 11,000th anniversary. And thanks to the Japanese and the USAID. And also we've been, promoting the need for sanitation in the Jordan Valley because it's connected to the Jordan River and the Dead Sea. So the lack of sanitation, sewage in particular, is a problem facing all the Palestinian and Jordanian communities. People just discharge their sewage through infiltration pits or cesspits, which is a big risk for pollution. The sewage can easily find its way to the groundwater, which is the main source of water for all sectors. Poor water supply, deteriorated pipes. The infrastructure is very poor, which means you have large physical losses. A good example in one of our communities where the USAID upgraded and rehabilitated the system, we saved more than 50% of the water that used, to flow in that system, and that guaranteed 24 hours supply of water for the Oja village. Okay, and also a big problem is the unequal distribution. For the Jordan River first, the Palestinians have no access to the river since 1967, so we do not benefit from the basins or the river's water since 1967, which is a big loss, and that could have influenced positively the economic and agricultural development in the Jordan Valley. Also, when it comes to water, as I said before, we cannot do any project without Israeli approval. So water supply is a big challenge. Agriculture since 67, no new single well was approved to be dug and for agriculture. So agriculture depends on all the wells dug before 67 in the Jordan Valley and the natural springs. But this is an example of a major spring in Oja where it used to bring 2,000 cubic meters, like 10,000 gallons per hour to the farmers. Today you can see how it looks. And that's mainly because of three reasons: climate change, also the wells of the Israel National Water Authority in the Jordan Valley, and the development of the Ramallah water utility. So the Oja community in the Jordan Valley have no running water. The baptism site now here on the Palestinian side, just north of the Dead Sea, is open today, but unfortunately it is run by the Israeli Natural Parks Authority, and as an organization we are demanding that this site be handed to the Palestinian Authority for development and for economic benefit. Palestinian Authority has, I mentioned that. So FOMI advocates fair share distribution of all transboundary water, including a fair share for ecology. So for ecology, the governments never thought about sharing water with ecology, and I think in our approach we demand that also ecology gets a fair share because of many reasons. I can talk if there are questions. Also to encourage to receive approvals from the civil administration. Said every single water and sanitary project must get the approval of the Joint Water Committee, and if it is in Area C, the civil administration. My colleague Gideon said the Joint Water Committee did not meet for the last 2 years or even 3 years, which means there are many projects just waiting the single approval while the money is there, and there is a big list of those projects. We need to rehabilitate the springs and the agricultural canals to minimize leakages and evaporation, and ecotourism is one of our challenges and things that we are promoting as an organization as a substitute for agriculture in the Jordan Valley. We know this area is very rich in both natural and cultural heritage, so ecotourism can be another way where water also could become part of it, so we can secure more water or buy water rights to bring it back to the Jordan River. That's the Oja Center. My colleague showed the first stage of the center, but you can see it is 4 floors now with more capacity for people staying overnight and other educational activities. We have another one in Jordan and the third one in Gedi in Israel. Both government and community level efforts can, yes. We think also, civil society and government, they should not be competing. Each one has, his task, and we work together, I think, to achieve a better results. With that, I stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nader. I think the mayor would be pleased with that presentation. So I think we heard about a number of issues from these presentations from the mayors and their representatives. Questions around sewage, irrigation, community engagement, from willow trees to climate change, from political will to looking at a fair share of transboundary water and what it means for a fair share of ecology. So some interesting concepts and how do you operationalize this. Thinking about the absence of a peace agreement, but at the same time, it's not all about signing papers. How do you make a real difference to communities on the ground? And what are the concrete means for cooperation? So I think these are some of the key themes that we heard coming from your intervention. So thank you very much. I'm really excited to hear what Adam Kaplan has to say about this. He is the Vice President of Sister Cities International and is charged with member services, recruitment, and policies at Sister Cities International. So Adam, let's hear what you're up to at Sister Cities in this initiative.
Thank you, Roger Mark, and thanks to the Wilson Center for hosting us. We're really delighted to be here. I think this is our first event here, at least in years, and in my memory of being with Sister Cities. And thanks to Gidon and the esteemed mayors for coming. They traveled very, very far to get here. I came from McPherson Square, so by far the shortest trip. I did start at Mount Pleasant in the morning, but still much shorter. And Steve, who has been really a trailblazer in trying to link the sister cities model to the issues in the Middle East. For those that don't know, many of you have probably heard of sister cities. You've probably seen a few signs on your way into towns or when you arrive in the airport and say, well, that's interesting, and that's about it, and then you keep going on to your destination. We were actually founded in 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and with the mission to promote peace through mutual respect, cooperation, and understanding, particularly through people-to-people exchanges. Most people, when they think of Eisenhower and some of his accomplishments, they think of things like the interstate highway system in the U.S. that helped connect U.S. cities, and we like to think of ourselves in a sense as a highway system connecting the U.S. to the world. After 1956, a lot of these initial partnerships were focused on post-World War II countries like Germany, France, Japan, and we still have many, many partnerships there. However, right now, our association represents 525 U.S. cities with over 2,000 partnerships in over 140 countries. So an extremely wide reach, including 48 in Israel, 6 in the Palestinian territories, and 4 in Jordan. As I mentioned, we're really about people-to-people exchanges. Initially, sister cities promoted exchanges in the fields of arts and culture. They felt that was the best medium to begin dialogue after World War II. But when you look at mature sister city programs, they're doing exchanges in youth, education, with universities, municipal exchanges in areas like water, transportation, sanitation, city management. We see humanitarian and small development exchanges going on, as well as business and economic development. And really, when you look at sister city relationships, it's one of the few models that really does bring together a community. All sister city relationships are formalized by the mayor or highest elected or appointed official, signing off on a memorandum of understanding. And although we are called sister cities, there are sister counties and sister states, and even some U.S. cities twinned with just districts in Chinese cities. Those districts do have over 1 million people, but they're still twinned with districts. After the mayor establishes the Sister City program, however, really a lot of the work being done is throughout the community. Most Sister City programs are incorporated as 501c3s. Many of them are volunteer organizations. They draw on a lot of civic leaders, community leaders from all different areas. And really, when you look at a lot of Sister City programs, they will bring in institutions from throughout the community. It might be universities, it might be clinics or hospitals. They'll involve the municipal government. They involve private businesses and trade associations. So we really see this as a prime way to engage with people abroad through these people-to-people exchanges. And as Gidon mentioned, it really is important when you're doing these to have self-interest and to work for mutual benefit. And the Sister Cities model really provides that flexibility for cities and for communities to engage with people abroad, to work on issues that are important to them. As I mentioned, these are also long-term. There's no expiration date on the Sister City program. Many of our partnerships are over 50 years old. Some of them are just a few weeks old, and some are in the works right now. We consider them to be non-political. We generally try to shy away from national issues. We're focused on quality of life, of improving relations between communities, and about learning from one another. And in terms of specifically in the area of water, we've seen a lot of success in some sister city programs. One that comes to mind that we were discussing before is Corvallis, Oregon, where Oregon State University is located. And they're actually sister cities with Gondar, Ethiopia. And you might ask yourself, well, how did that develop? And how do most sister cities develop? Any number of ways. Steve's relationship between Gainesville and Novorossiysk actually started in one of the most common ways, and that's Steve married a woman from Novorossiysk. And they decided that they needed to have stronger ties to the home country. And you would be surprised at how many relationships actually start this way and become very vibrant. A lot of times they'll twin because they have similar geographies or face similar challenges. We see that a lot with desert communities, port-to-port partnerships. Sometimes it's because there is a diaspora group. That's the case. In Corvallis, there's a gentleman from Gondar who went to Gondar State University and ended up working for the municipality. found some people, and they developed this partnership. And what we've seen there is things like Oregon State University working on watershed management with Gondar State University at the Angareb watershed, working on issues like reforestation, students traveling back and forth, exchanges of water experts. So this is the sort of thing that can build out slowly from a sister city program. You know, while we focus on, and here we're focusing on water issues, really from our perspective, our interest is any people-to-people engagement. And when Steve and I, we were in the region last year, and we were at the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem, and we were talking to the consul and a CAO, their cultural affairs officer, and at the end of the meeting, the CAO turned to us and said, "Oh, by the way, you know, I should probably thank you because I'm from Des Moines, Iowa, and my first experience abroad was in a sister city exchange to our French sister city." And it's a cliche, but we hear this so often about sister city exchanges being life-changing experiences. And obviously, in exchanges like this, we do want to get people working on water issues involved and experts involved. But we also want to see it expand into areas like youth. So we want the Jordanian and Palestinian and Israeli youth to participate in these types of exchanges. So in 20, 25 years, there are those people sitting across from you at the desk when you're talking about policy and when you're talking about some of these upper level issues. So with that, you know, I'll turn it over to Steve, and I'm actually really lucky. When I first started out, my first sister city program was an exchange of 25 Iraqi high school students, and they went to our conference, and then we did a 2-week homestay in Gainesville. And Steve was kind enough to host us. And even back then, I remember Steve turned to me and he said, we were talking about the partnership between Kfar Saba and Qalqilya. And he mentioned his dream of really bringing this Sister Cities model to try and help develop peace in the region. So we're delighted to be partnering with CDI and with EcoPeace. So at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. I like that. This highway system connecting the U.S. to the rest of the world. It's a good tagline. But sister cities, sister counties, sister states, sister districts.
Sister rivers we have.
Sister rivers.
Coming
Yeah. A lot of connections. And I think what sort of came out from your comments is part of this is opportunistic. And part of this is also how do we make that very strategic and sort of base this on these natural relationships that are emerging and sort of where these connections emerge and how can we build out of that. So thank you very much. Steve, well, we know a little bit already about your personal people-to-people engagement, which is good to have that additional information. So Steve Kalishman is the founding director of Citizen Diplomacy Initiatives, and as we heard a little bit already, he currently serves as the president of Sister City Program for Gainesville, which administers 8 Sister City programs. So Steve?
Thank you. I just want to pause it. Just. Okay, so you've heard about my intimate involvement in U.S.-Soviet relations. It's so exciting to be partnering with EcoPeace and Sister Cities International to try to leverage these this terrific work that's been done into some type of solution for the overall Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And I just want to give you a little bit of history about the Soviet Union because I think it's got a lesson for us here, even though the situations are different. So in CDI originated in 1982 when we started the Gainesville Novorossiysk Sister City program. So let me just, I know a lot of people in the room weren't alive in 1982, so let me just go back to that time in our history and describe what it was like. You know, there was no internet.
How miserable.
I don't know how we survived.
No mobiles.
There was no contact whatsoever between ordinary people in the United States and Soviet Union. We knew nothing about the Soviet Union except what we were told in the media or by the government. And it was a shock to me when I went there for the first time and realized that, you know, this situation it's not only is it dangerous, but it's very frustrating because we had 50,000 nuclear weapons pointed at each other, and we were basically trusting our governments to do the right thing and prevent a war which would not be like World War II. It would be the end of the earth, and we came very close to that happening. So there was no cultural exchange agreement, no ordinary contact among ordinary people, and people in the United States were scared and very frustrated that there was nothing that we could do. I mean, what can the average person do in a situation like that? And so when we started taking elected officials to the Soviet Union, we started getting a little bit of publicity about this. The National Review wrote a little tongue-in-cheek article, oh, isn't this cute? Maybe they'll promise never to bomb each other. But because of that, other cities around the country started contacting us, and we realized that there was this huge need throughout the country to have contacts with Soviet people and to try to develop relationships and figure out, you know, what we could do to end this very dangerous conflict. And so we started a magazine, Citizen Diplomat magazine, and we started helping other cities, promoting the idea of having U.S.-Soviet sister city programs. We had several conferences. The first one was in 1986 in Boulder, Colorado. And you know, at the time, President Reagan was calling the Soviet Union the evil empire. And I think everyone just said, well, okay, we don't know because we can't talk to anybody over there. So, but eventually what happened was we were able to connect 200 U.S. and Soviet cities into sister city relationships with, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people involved in cultural exchange when there was no cultural exchange agreement. I mean, the Bolshoi Ballet could not get a visa to come to the United States. So anyway, after our first conference in Boulder, President Reagan gave a speech on television in which he said that we need to have more people-to-people contacts, more cultural exchange, more sister city programs. And so we were inspired by the fact that ordinary people can make a difference, and we did make a difference. And the thawing of relations, you know, led to the end of the Cold War. And you know, we did our part. I can't take credit for it, but we did what we could, and it showed me the power that individuals have to affect relations when there's been a failure of leadership. And so in 1997, we had people from Kfar Saba and Qalqilya, the mayor of Qalqilya and the deputy mayor of Kfar Saba came to Gainesville, and talk about full circle. You know why they came to Gainesville? They wanted help building a water treatment plant, 1997. So we said, well, let's have a sister city program. And the Israeli mayor said, oh, well, I don't think we could have a Palestinian sister city. And the Palestinian mayor said, well, I don't think it wouldn't work. No, I don't think that would happen. But they both said, but if Gainesville invites us, we can do it as a three-way program. So great. So the next year we took our mayor and went there with a resolution, and it was accepted. This was 1998. Then in the year 2000, there was a joint Palestinian-Israeli delegation that came to Gainesville together, and at the same time, Barak and Arafat were in Washington meeting with President Clinton, and we were all hoping for something great to happen, which didn't, as you know. And then we had the second Intifada, so for a few years nothing happened. But then they came again in 2006, wanting to revive the program, and then basically we wanted to see, you know, who's in favor of this before we start promoting it. So we had delegations from Kfar Saba and Qalqilya come to Gainesville, and then we came here to Washington, D.C. And we started running this idea by anyone who would listen. We went to the State Department, to the U.S. Institute of Peace, to Senator Kerry and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, who said this is exactly the type of program that we need, and to Senator Franken, Senator Bill Nelson of Florida, Congressman Keith Ellison, who told us we could have 5 minutes, but when we got in there, started showing us all his slides from his trip to the West Bank. So, yeah, and everyone said, yes, this is exactly what's needed. So then we took a group of 16 people to Israel and the West Bank in 2011 to promote this idea and to see, you know, who's in favor of it over there. So talk about trusting relationships. Now, we arrived there with no idea of the agenda, but a program was arranged for us where we met with, the first day we met with the Prime Minister, Salam Fayyad, then the Deputy Minister of Civil Affairs, the Minister of Municipalities, 7 Palestinian mayors, 3 governors, and 3 university presidents, one of whom is the current Prime Minister, Mr. Hamdallah. So on film, with an Israeli film crew, they all said, yes, this is exactly what's needed. We went to Israel. We went to the mayor of Kfar Saba. We went to the deputy mayor of Tel Aviv, who got so excited that she stopped us and picked up the phone, and all this is on film, and this film we're making called When the People Lead. She picks up the phone and starts calling around and trying to make arrangements. We went to the mayor of Nablus, who was also the head of the PLO International Department and the head of the Association of Palestinian Local Authorities. He said, stop. He picks up the phone. He said, he calls an Israeli mayor, then talks to him in Hebrew, and then hangs up, and he says, that's not my friend. That's my brother. And he says, we need to go to the U.S. with mayors, Israeli and Palestinian mayors, and have a conference. He says to me, you set it up, and we'll come. So we spent, I mean, obviously we were kind of excited about the reception that we had gotten, the U.S., Israel, Palestine. You know, it turns out that the majority of people don't want conflict. They don't want fighting and wars. They just want to live together in peace with their neighbors. But guess what? These people have no voice, because you turn on the TV and they're not there talking. It's the extremists, the terrorists, the fanatics. That's all we hear about. And most people in the U.S. don't even want to go to Israel or the West Bank because they're too afraid. And our goal is to connect every Israeli, Palestinian, and Jordanian city with a U.S. city in a sister city relationship. Where we're not going to take people there as tourists. They're going to go there as friends and guests and honored guests. I mean, and the hospitality is fantastic, believe me. And what this is going to do is something that we could never do. You can show people films, you can show them articles, you can tell them whatever you're going to tell them. Nothing's going to change until they go there and they meet people and they find out what's really going on. And so I believe that if we create these relationships by just having the mayors sign a memorandum of understanding, that's all we need the mayors to do, that's all we need the cities to do, because after that, we're going to connect counterparts, individuals, organizations, institutions, and we're going to create collaborative projects that do provide benefits on the ground and give a voice to the moderate people who want this conflict to end. And I believe that based on our experience with the Soviet Union, even though it's a different situation, but the principle is the same. When you get people together and build trusting relationships, then everything becomes possible. Now, last year, President Obama made a speech in Israel and in the West Bank, and Secretary Kerry has said this many times. We must have a constituency for peace. But who's doing it? Do you see any constituencies being developed? No. This program, what EcoPeace has done for the last 20 years is unprecedented. Who else is bringing Israeli, Palestinian, and Jordanian mayors here? Because they realize that, the leadership, national leaders, they've got their agendas. They've got their problems to deal with. But people need a good life, a family, a job, something, the education for their kids. That's all. That's what most people are concerned about, not about these national conflicts. And we have to step up now because the leaders have failed. And this program is absolutely the best and only and strategic way to do this. And so let me see if I missed anything here. Yeah, we almost had, the Union of Local Authorities of Israel represents 650 Israeli cities. The Association of Palestinian Local Authorities, 700 Palestinian cities. We connected the heads of those organizations, and they were ready to come here in April of this year. But, everything's complicated over there. But we know that, that they're in favor of it because they both told us. And so everyone's in favor of it. So what are we waiting for? I mean, this is a way for every person that is interested in helping to resolve this conflict to do something positive, not to criticize, condemn, blame, delegitimize, normalize, or any of these other words that get people upset. No, we're going to go there and do something positive that's going to affect the situation. You don't have to be against anything. Just go over there and find something that we can do together. And believe me, as Adam said, we've taken 30 delegations to the Soviet Union. Everyone who's come back has said that experience changed their lives. Sister city programs are magic, and getting people, ordinary people together with no political agenda, just as people and just sitting down, breaking bread and talking about what matters most to them, changes everything. So I'm tremendously excited about this. I think you're going to see over the next few years massive influx of Americans to the region to learn about what's going on there, get to know people, bring resources, human resources, financial resources. And, because this is not just their problem. It's not an Israeli-Palestinian problem. Okay. That's the last thing I'm going to say. I guess, I could talk about this all day. And, as an attorney, when they say, be brief, a brief is a 100-page document. But anyway, what I wanted to say is this is not an Israeli, Palestinian, Jordanian problem only. It's a U.S. problem. And that's not my opinion. General David Petraeus, who was the commander-in-chief in Afghanistan and then later was the head of the CIA, said that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the #1 national security threat to the United States. So it's not like we need to go over there and help them. We need to solve our own problem or help solve the problem by releasing this huge potential of human participation into this equation. And personally, I'm going to be spending the rest of my life making sure it happens. So thank you very much for having me. I got 1 minute to show my slides. I forgot about them. 1 minute. I'm going to show you my slides. These are just some of the events that happened, some of the people that were involved. Let's see if this will work. Okay, that's Manal. She's one of our directors. She's born in the West Bank, lives in Florida. Maruf Safran on the right was the mayor of Qalqilia when we started the program. Now he's the deputy minister of civil affairs. There's Adam at Masada.
Steve, slideshow's over.
The mayor of Gainesville and Qalqilia. They didn't just give us an olive branch. They gave us the whole tree. That's our filmmaker, Amir Turkle. Fantastic documentary. That's the current prime minister who was then the head of the university in Nablus. The mayor of Gainesville receiving a gift from Kfar Saba. That's the mayor of Kfar Saba with our art and music directors.
Yehuda Ben Hamo,
Yes, Yehuda Ben Hama.
my friend.
Yes. Friend of yours? That's the mayor talking with the prime minister. First thing he asked us when we came in is, you're from Gainesville? Yeah, well, how are the Gators doing this year? I'm like, what? He's a University of Texas graduate. That's Mr. Al-Masri, wealthy Palestinian man. That's his foyer in his house. That's the Prime Minister with our city commissioner, Randy Wells. And it makes a huge difference when you show up with elected officials. It's a lot different from a peace group showing up. So I think, go ahead. There, go ahead. And there we painted on the wall there. We took a hip hop group from Los Angeles called the Luminaries. And that's some of their work there. And at a girls' school, that's Paul Rothstein is our other third director for CDI. And that is the head of the International Department of ULAI. On the right, Ruth Wasserman, and Manal, meeting with her. And then last is our vision. So, thank you.
Thank you, Steve, for that really heartfelt reminder of that time when we had no internet. And going from, isn't it cute, to cultural exchange, to mutual understanding, to really concrete program development around a water treatment plant, and sort of this reminder of how Gainesville was able to step in as this third party and develop this sort of three-way program when politics fail and when politicians have failed, and sort of building this constituency for peace through connecting counterparts. So very compelling. Thank you. I liked that image of the lady who was the most motivator and busiest woman.
Yes.
What a title. So I think let's open it up. I'm sure you have lots of questions. My colleagues will come around with a microphone. This is being webcast live and it's being recorded. It will be archived. So we will ask you to please give your name and your affiliation. And because of time constraints, to get to your question as soon as possible. We'll try to take as many questions as we can. So please, let's open it up. Yes. We have one here, and then in the back.
Thank you. I'm Dave Rabinowitz, and I was wondering if there's been any impact of the relatively new Israeli desalination plants on the Jordan River Valley.
Thank you. Yep.
My name is Liliana Rodriguez from Fundación Cultural Militar Argentina. I'm a national defense expert, sir. My question is the following, to the last speaker especially. When you said that the most important threat for the United States is Palestinian and Israel, how do you link that with Iraq, Pakistan, and especially Levante?
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, please.
My name is Nart Shechem. Thank you for your efforts. For a while, for the past several years in Jordan, there has been talk about a canal between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea. Does that happen in cooperation with your efforts, or is that separate, or what?
Okay, great. Any other questions now? So let's take those. So we have 3 sets of questions about the new desalination plants. You're looking at the most important threats to the United States. How does that tie into Iraq and Pakistan? And the work around building the canal between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea. Is that something that you're being involved in or very aware of? So would you like to start,
I'll take the desalination issue, the first question. Has desalination contributed to water to the Jordan River? And the answer is yes. To be very brief, Israel is a world leader in the field, and it's desalinating close to 500 million cubic meters of water. That's about 70% of the drinking water in the country is today coming from desalination from the Mediterranean Sea. That means that a lot of the pressure on the Sea of Galilee has been removed, and more water is available. And some of that water is flowing for the very first time. The water that you saw is now flowing down the Jordan because the pie has increased. And the potential here is not just for the Jordan. The potential is to move forward on the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations on water, because desal with its problems, and there are problems of burning fossil fuels. But nevertheless, desal has led to increasing the pie. And that means that natural water, we're not talking about the Palestinians buying desal water, but the natural water can be more fairly shared without a sector in Israel losing water. And that would have been the case 5 years ago. It would have been that agriculture would have lost water, and there would have been a constituency who would have objected to a fair deal between Israel and Palestine. So there are technological game changers that we must jump on, and those game changers are helping fresh water flow down the River Jordan today. But I think it's our role, and we were very much involved in that, but I think it's our role to take it a step further and build on the water for nature to the water for peace between Israel and Palestine.
Thank you. Yes.
Okay, I'll take the Red Dead thing, and it'll be a brief from an engineer, not a lawyer. So, the Red Dead project, to start with, it was all because of the Dead Sea, and the Dead Sea is dropping by 1 meter. That's 3 feet per year in water level, and us as an organization, we did not support that project at all, because we did some studies many years back, and it showed some real serious environmental impacts on the Dead Sea and on the area in general, you know, being from the Red Sea through Wadi Araba to the Dead Sea. Now, like you see us, we are hardcore environmentalists, but we still wear tie and suits, you know. It's not jeans and torn up clothing, because we really believe in sustainability. We don't want the world to stop and just hug trees and fence everything and call it a reserve, but we still believe that society needs to develop, and this development needs a lot of investments and projects and so on. So the way we look at the project as a mega project, of course we rejected it, but we influenced the World Bank and the 3 countries, Israel, Palestine, and Jordan, to look at the alternatives of that mega project, which will create a lot of problems in the 3 beautiful ecosystems we mentioned. And the alternative studies showed that, yes, the Dead Sea can be saved by looking at a number of alternatives to work with. The main one is to rehabilitate the Jordan River. Like we had a poster in our organization showing the Dead Sea on a hospital bed. Okay, and the disease is coming from the Jordan River because it's been diverted, but somebody else is running and bringing the medicine from the south, which it's not where you need to fix your problem, it's the north, which is Jordan River. So I think the project is dead. It proved unfeasibility, but the 3 respective countries, along with the United States of America support and the World Bank, signed an agreement December last year, which they called it the first phase of the project, which it's not at all, because it's nothing about the old project. But the idea is to desalinate in Aqaba, give the water to the area of Eilat, which it's part of the water, and in exchange of that water, Jordan will take water from the north, where it needs water most, the Sea of Galilee, and also the Palestinians have a share of about 30 million cubic meters of water to be agreed with the Israelis. That's what we call a good project, and we support it. So this is in brief about the Red Dead Canal.
Thank you. Steve?
Sure. So about the #1 threat to U.S. national security. That wasn't my idea. That was General Petraeus. But I believe that the reason he said that is because the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is a recruiting tool for extremist groups. But the main reason is that there probably won't be any peace between all of the Arab countries and Israel until there's a Palestinian state. That's why I believe he said that.
Thank you. Yes. Any other questions? Yes, please. We have.
Hi, I'm Janet Edmond from Conservation International, and I would like to hear from this distinguished panel of men about how...
Emphasize that a little bit more, Janet.
I'm going to ask the gender question. How are you working with women to build those constituencies of peace, which Steve said? And how do you do that in cultures where dialogue among the sexes happens, but it may not happen in public spaces? So I'm very interested to hear, especially the mayor, who spoke in Arabic.
Me?
he understood that. Any other questions? Yes, we have a question here, please.
Thank you so much. My name is Michael Zwern. I have a question about the pace of environmental peacemaking activities, because 18 years ago I was at the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies. 14 years ago I was at the Israel-Palestine Center for Research and Information in Bethlehem. We've been talking about this stuff for a very long time, about water resources and shared management in Israel and Palestine. And in the 18 years since I got involved in the issue, we're still talking about getting these programs off the ground. And the environment has been degraded, the populations have increased, the conflict has continued. It just feels like we're on a cycle where we're talking about these wonderful initiatives, but the political and the military and economic landscape hasn't allowed the environmental initiatives to catch up to that reality.
Okay, thank you. Yes, please.
I'm Mary Kane. I'm with Sister Cities International. And Steve, what is, I think one of the reasons we haven't seen too much is we don't have consensus on the ground here in the United States. What was your experience getting people in Gainesville to support your Palestinian and Israeli relationships in a trilateral way?
Thank you. And I think we had it. Yes, please.
Hi, I'm Eric Vieira from AECOM. The question I have relates to sustainability. How do you keep, for example, with Sister City, how do you keep twinning partnerships going, especially when there's not much funding around? I mean, I talk from personal experience. Recently in Lebanon, I was managing a USAID project. We were able, around water, river basin management, we were able to establish a twinning agreement between a French river basin agency and a group of mayors around the Litani River. Unfortunately, the USAID project closed, and well, unfortunately, I'm very sad because I believe that the mayors were maybe not mobilized enough, and maybe we couldn't find the right champion. But because there's no more money, at the end of the day, it's always the same question. The effort is going to falter and just disappear. So sustainability is really difficult, and how do you keep it sustainable without money? Everybody's looking at money at the end of the day.
Thank you. So we have 4 really good questions for a panel of men. How do you work with women, and particularly taking into account the gender relations within the region and the conversations that happen among the sexes, both in the public and private spaces? So how are you thinking about that, and in particular wanting to hear from the mayors on this? The pace of environmental peacemaking. Did you get people in Gainesville to support this work in a trilateral way, and sustainability of twinning initiatives in absence of funding? So let's start with the mayors for.
شكرا.
Thank you.
في عنا بالدين الحنيف الإسلام بيقول استوصوا بالنساء خيرا.
In Islam, it says that look into the goods through women, and the good things through women.
ومقولة أخرى بيقول النساء فاكهة الدنيا.
And in another say, it says that women are the fruits and the good in the world.
الحقيقة احنا في الأردن يعني خلينا نحكي عموما الآن
In general, in Jordan,
كثير من التشريعات
a lot of
تم تحديثها فيما يخص بالمرأة
legislations are related to
فيما
women
يخص بالمرأة ومشاركة المرأة وتفعيل دور المرأة
and their partnership and to activate their role in society.
وهناك العديد من أو عدد لا بأس فيه في مجلس النواب الأردني.
We have a good number of women in the parliament.
أيضا في مجلس الأعيان في البلديات
and in the upper
في
house,
الحكومة
in the
الوزراء.
municipalities, in the ministries,
هناك
as ministers.
هناك مشاركة أو شراكة فاعلة جدا للنساء والقطاع النسائي في أمور العامة وأمور الخاصة
We
فيما
have very,
يجري في
very
العمل العام.
active role for women in both the public and private sectors.
في المجلس البلدي اللي عندي اللي أرأسه في عنا
In
هو
our-
10 أعضاء.
In our board in the municipality, which is 10 members,
3 منهم نساء.
3 women in the board.
ما يخص المشاريع وما يخص العمل اللي احنا بصدده واللي بنحكي عنه ما تم وأنجز وما هو
The projects that we are talking about now, which is already happened and
مأمول
waiting to
إنجازه.
be happened.
الكثير من هاي الأعمال تمت من خلال
A lot of-
مجموعة من الشابات الباحثات.
A lot of these of this work been done by women, young women,
المتخصصات في مجالات متعددة
specialized in different fields
وعلى قدر من المهنية
and professionals
مجال العمل.
in their work. Yeah, I can say that if I may add a little bit. Yani friends, the EcoPeace, no, thank you. EcoPeace, our office has about 70% women, really. And I can say that they do most of the good work.
هذا اللي أنا هذا اللي كنت أعنيه في الحكي اللي صار المشاريع اللي تمت يعني من ضمن
Thank you,
برنامج.
Great, thank you. Adam?
From the perspective of sister city exchanges, we haven't seen the involvement of women as too much really an issue. I would say that it's more the other way around when it comes to a lot of these exchanges is getting men involved. A large portion of our leadership, both nationally and at a local level, is composed of women. I know that in the Burlington-Bethlehem partnership, the people that have been going back and forth, it's been led by women and performed by women, exchanges in music, library services, ESL training, things like that. It's certainly, at an upper level and in areas such as engineering, it is still obviously an issue. But from the general perspective of sister city exchanges, our experience is that women tend to be more fearless travelers than men. The men take a little bit more convincing to go off the beaten path, and at our youth leadership summit, we struggle to get young men involved, while the young women are extremely interested in international affairs and taking leadership in these roles.
Great, thanks. And Adam, any thoughts on sister cities, sustainability, lack of funding?
That's a great question. I think that there's two issues, and I think you hit on both of them relating to sustainability, and that's in terms of resources or money and in terms of personnel. To increase the sustainability of these programs, if they're dependent on municipal funding, it's not going to be sustainable. The fact of the matter is municipal budgets get cut. And the majority of our members have learned to live by doing their own fundraising. They pay for their own travel. Most of them don't do these activities through grants. They raise their own money or pay their own way. And it limits the ability of sister city programs to do these high-level development projects like building a sewage treatment plant, where the real value add in these is in the building of relationships and getting people who can donate their time, and we have been successful in getting cities to allow city employees to go on paid leave, to go on sister city exchanges to do work. So from that perspective, they can be sustainable without a large source of funding. The other is in terms of personnel. If the Sister City program, and we see this more often with cities abroad where the Sister City program is focused in the municipal government, you need to have people outside of government involved in these. When people are involved as volunteers and at the grassroots level, they're involved for 10, 15, 20 years. The fact is elected officials serve a term, they're voted out. If you're relying on the elected official to do all of the Sister City programs, you're going to be constantly rebuilding from scratch. So we always encourage Sister City programs when they get developed, even if they are centered on the municipal government, they need to have interest from institutions and individuals that can stay involved past the political cycle.
Thank you. And Steve, how did you get people in Gainesville on board?
Well, I think the answer to that question relates to how to sustain relationships, how to work with women.
All of the above.
Yeah, you know, and how to fund the programs. It's all related, because the way we get people is we take a delegation and visit our sister city. They come back, it's a life-changing experience. They tell their friends, they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
When delegations come to visit us, we try to make sure they connect with as many people in the community as possible. We go to churches, synagogues, mosques, to Rotary, to Chamber of Commerce, City Hall, everything we can think of to try to get as many people connected as possible, because that's what really gets people interested and keeps people interested, is when they build a relationship with someone, it changes everything. So, and I'll tell you this, the best investment that the U.S. government makes every year, which is large, and there's a lot of programs like this to bring people to the United States and to put them in homes of Americans, not in hotels, and to have them involved in our lives, because when they go home, they become the best ambassadors for the United States. And for every dollar that's invested in a program like that, it creates millions of dollars in value for the United States.
It's really good to hear that. I'm surprised that how many people don't know at the Wilson Center. Every year we bring 150 scholars here. Most of these scholars, or many of these scholars, are coming from overseas. They're international, and spending about a year here in joint scholarship and exploration really has provided those kinds of benefits that you're talking about. Yes, please.
بس مداخلة بسيطة على الأخت اللي سألت عن ما يجري في العراق وباكستان.
A slight intervention on the lady who asked about Afghanistan and Iraq. I think she left Ali, يعني, so.
Yes. لا بس أنا يعني بدي أحكي إنه العالم الآن قرية صغيرة.
I just want to say that the world is a village at this time.
ما في أي دولة بالعالم ممكن إنها تعزل حالها مهما بلغت من الاقتصاد عن باقي دول العالم.
ما
يحدث في العراق، في سوريا،
في
الشرق الأوسط، وما سماه البعض للأسف ربيع عربي وهو خريف عربي.
Some people called it as a Arab spring, which we think it's a winter spring really.
وما قيل
Arab winter.
وما قيل عنه إنه الشرق من سنوات إنه الشرق أوسط جديد.
And what's been said about the new Middle East.
أو الفوضى الخلاقة بالشرق الأوسط للأسف هي انعكاس
disruption or
هو انعكاس سلبي على كل دول العالم ولن يسلم منه أحد.
on all the world, every country in the world.
فلذلك أنا أرى إنه يعني كأمريكا دولة عظيمة قوية.
I see America as a superpower.
يعني لها أو يجب أن يكون لها الدور الأكبر.
It should have the biggest role.
مع الاتحاد الأوروبي.
With the European Union.
في إيجاد الحل السريع لمثل هذه القضايا.
To work on a fast track to solve these problems.
وبتصور جلالة الملك يمكن في لقائه مع الرئيس أوباما قبل أيام.
His Majesty our King Abdullah, when he met President Obama a few days ago.
وضع التصور الواضح لهذه المشاكل والحلول المناسبة لها.
He put the Middle East perspective and how we can solve it.
نأمل إن شاء الله أن يكون في تضافر في جميع الجهود.
That everybody will work together.
لأن الأمن والاستقرار
because stability and security
لا يساوى بثمن.
They are priceless.
وكم كنا حزينين جدا.
We were so sad.
عندما رأينا لمرة أو مرتين أحد أفراد داعش.
The two incidents that happened with the new Islamic state that is emerging.
وهو بعيد عن الإسلام.
And they are so far away from Muslims.
وهو يمسك أحد الأشخاص وبيده سكين فهذا شيء محزن جدا.
They slaughter the throat of people. So
شكرا.
that is very sad. Thank you.
Thank you.
I may add one comment that my successor to this position will be a woman.
Very good. So, Gidon, time is upon us, but I wondered whether you had any quick thoughts on the question around the pace of environmental peace building.
So it's an important question, and I want to respond to it with two thoughts. One, the approach that all of our governments, Israeli, Palestinian, US, over the last 20 years has been all or nothing. Either we agree on everything or we agree on nothing. And for 20 years, we've agreed on nothing. Environment, and water in particular, presents the opportunity. And there's lots of small concrete success. Now, we can speak to some $500 million of investments that have been leveraged in these communities that bring water and sanitation problems. We can solve the Israeli-Palestinian water environment issues tomorrow. They're not being solved because they're being held hostage to the other 4 final status issues. So one of the ways, and it's taken us 18 years to understand that, but we do understand that today, and I can say to you that Secretary of State Kerry listed water and environment in one of his key issues in the framework agreement to move forward on. And that's a great success that it's today understood at the highest levels, Israeli, Palestinian, and American. And finally, I think that another reason why we're not seeing the advance that we need as quickly as we need is because we're not investing enough. We're not investing enough in people to people. The CMM program, which of course we applaud, gets $10 million. The rest of the military hardware and all the rest of it gets billions of dollars. So it's not a surprise that this is taking so long. We're not really investing in peacemaking, and that's what we need to be investing in.
Thank you very much, Gidon. So in our discussion today at several points, we've talked about the importance of signing papers, signing agreements, and sort of recognize that this is important, but not enough. And I think what we've seen concretized today is a general understanding, willingness to build on opportunities to collaborate and build peace around important resources like water resources in a critical part of the world. And we want to concretize that today with the signing of a memorandum of understanding to create a U.S.-Jordan Valley sister city partnership. So I would like to invite Munkath, who is the Jordanian director of EcoPeace Middle East and who will soon be replaced by a woman. He's much more than an interpreter. Thank you for the interpretation. But Munkath, if I can ask you to say a few quick words about why are you all here together now in Washington and what it means to sign this memorandum of understanding. And we'd like to do that quickly, and then we'd like to ask you, Steve and Mary, to join us so that we can sign the memorandum and wrap up.
Okay, thank you very much, Roger, for that. Yani, I don't know how much I can add after what's been said and all been said, but yani, in brief, again, yani, I would say that it's people to people, like Steve and Adam mentioned, that it is the core business of what we really need to do. Yes, we do need you guys to sign okay, in the beginning, but the rest should be left to the people to people. In our experience in EcoPeace, Middle East, the last 20 years, we really noticed how the people-to-people program can change people, not only the people who's directly involved, but also the people around them. When they go home, they spread the news, what they saw, and the experience that they had on the other side. And trust me, that changes people. So signing is very, very important, yes, but what comes after signing and how to bring people together is the most important, I think.
Great. Thank you. So on that note, Adam, I'll let you say a few words while, Mary, you make your way up here so that we can go ahead and sign the MOU, please.
I just wanted to add, Sister Cities International is constantly contacted by U.S. communities looking for new partners. So one thing that we see coming out of this partnership, we'll be continually promoting more Jordanian, Palestinian, and Israeli partnerships through this, as well as using the contacts that they have in those regions to make sure that U.S. communities can get in touch with the right people to make a concrete and productive partnership.
Great, thank you. So we'll ask you to come up here so that we can sign, so that you can sign. I'm not signing.
Next time.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have a woman up here.
He's asking where's Gadon. He's down there taking pictures.
Excellent.
Well, I would say please join me. Please join me in congratulating them and signing the MOU. And I think for what has been a really good and interesting discussion for us here today, I think they're available. They will stay for a little bit. If they have any more questions, please hang around. And please continue to join us here at the Wilson Center and follow us online. We have various resources here for you. So thank you very much for joining us on the end of a busy week on a Friday afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We'll definitely be in.